morning, brothers and sisters. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Church of Doom Sunday RPG sermon. I was going to say revelation, but that's because I was reading that on the note right here. This is a sermon. If anybody is new here, first of all, welcome. My name is Landon, Reverend Father Doom Gus, and this is just kind of a creative digital third space for people to come and share all kinds of creative ideas for fantasy, sci-fi world building, typically within the realm of role-playing games, but we are system and hobby agnostic here. You can enjoy whatever you want within the church and take away whatever lessons you'd like. But today, we are gathered here to discuss setting campaign primers. Oh, whoops. I got another monitor set up, forgot to mute myself. We are here today to discuss campaign and setting primers. What should be in them, what maybe shouldn't be in them, how long should they be? Have you ever even used them or gotten one before? So we're going to kind of work on all that stuff today. But first, we've got a couple other things we like to do here with these sermons. We're going to do our opening prompt. So as I'm continuing to kind of explain why we're here today, be dropping in chat a topic you'd like us to brainstorm for you with our opening prompt. It can be whatever you want. It could just be something weird for your world, or it could be something for your upcoming session. Just drop whatever you'd like in there, but we're going to do that at the beginning and then at the end as our closing prompt as well. And then before we jump into setting primers, we're going to do a couple quick church announcements. I'll kind of get you up to speed with some things that I've been working on, some changes that have gone into effect, all that good stuff. So I'm realizing I cannot see the chat where I'm at, like from this distance. I thought I'd be able to read it and I cannot, so give me just a second to see if I can zoom in on that. That's better already. Hold on. Alright, I'm seeing Sebastian's hanging out with us. Church of Doom, sorry for out of topic, but someone was searching for you on the comment section of Kickstarter. Oh, were they? Okay. I'll have to go respond to them. Interesting. Was that on... I'm guessing that was on Monster Psalms. What else we got going on? What's up, Colin? 55 on Tuesday. Welcome, welcome. Love to see the emoji. Twisted Mage, howdy, and Baby Shark Bro. What is that in the poll, if I may know? I haven't heard of it. A setting or campaign primer? Oh, well then, this is a great talk for you to be attending. We're going to get into that later. Wow, Twisted Mage has never used them either? Interesting. Interesting stuff. Well, let's not jump ahead too much here. Let's get into our opening prompt first, right? What do you all want to brainstorm today? Do you guys need some villains for an upcoming session? Do you need some bandit hideouts? Do you need random encounters? Do you need something to do this evening after this sermon? If you're going to be bored, you need like some sort of hobby activity. What are we going to brainstorm? Also, while you're doing that, I'm going to get this fan going because it is hot, hot, hot in here today. That's better. Okay. Y'all are just super prepped. You guys are just always like, nope, I got my stuff figured out. I know what I need for my sessions, I guess. Maybe we could do, I'm trying to think if I need something for my upcoming things that I could brainstorm. What could we do? We could do, oh no, just to make your group fell apart? So I don't need anything? Well, if your group fell apart, then you need to get a new game going. So why don't we do some campaign starters. 1d4, and I don't want to do fantasy, I want to do sci-fi. 1DX sci-fi campaign starters. Alright. What are some cool thematic words for campaign starters? Anybody got ideas for sci-fi campaign starters? We could do 1DX sci-fi campaign starters. I'm thinking black hole. That's a good word. We could do like stranded ship. Maybe just stranded. Let's go with that. We could do... thinking space. What other things are sci-fi? Black hole and ship is both like flying through space, kind of star things. What is something super different sci-fi theme? What's something like on a planet that's not, flying through stars? You could do like hive scum. Yeah, let's do like hive city. Hive city. I like that. Twisted Mage. That's a good one. Invasion. I like that. Cool. Okay, Black Hole, Stranded, Hive City, and Invasion. So we need a campaign starter for Black Hole. My brain immediately goes to maybe like the player's world is being sucked into a black hole and it's going to crash into another world and they have to stop that, but that's just a plot line from Marvel Comics, so I don't want to do that. Also, Black Hole, obviously first instinct is things getting pulled into a black hole. Could we do something weird with that, where it's, I guess a wormhole is the reverse of that. Things come out of the black hole, but... Sebastian, Church of Doom, SciFi? Just ask. I'm a living encyclopedia of sci-fi. Drop away, dude. We need some ideas then. Oh, rogue AI? Twisted Mage. That's a cool idea. What about an AI that was trying to build a device? Okay, I'm going to try and merge these ideas. An AI that is somehow trying to collapse the planet in on itself to, like, make a black hole. Why would it want to do that? Is it like some sort of mining? Ooh, here we go. A rogue mining corporation's AI has gone. Or I guess that's where I would say rogue. A mining corporation's AI has gone rogue in its mission to drill to the planet's core, and now threatens to collapse the mega mithril giant planet or something. Like, instead of a gas giant, it's a mithril giant. That would be cool. Collapse the mithril giant planet in on itself. What would happen if you collapsed a mithril planet? What could that do to a black hole? Does anybody have ideas for that? Colton had an idea, maybe some fantasy medieval knights versus xenomorphs. We could do something like that. That could be a good, like, stranded hook. Ooh, Twisted Mage had another idea for black hole. Maybe a lab has made portable black holes as weapons. That is, I like that. I think that's also kind of similar to the plotline in that Marvel comic that my brain first jumped to. They have these, like, bombs that they can drop, or they're not even necessarily bombs. They're just these weird big, I don't even know, like, devices that they put on a planet that is going to collapse into theirs, and it stops it from happening. I don't really remember the comic that well. Sebastian says black holes can distort space-time continuum. In some sentient are used as slingshots for interstellar travel. Oh yeah, I remember that from Interstellar. That was cool. What were we talking? Oh, black hole mithril planet collapsing. Anything special with that? Maybe I'm just gonna go with something like we'll create a new element. Oh, that's really cool, actually. That's just like out of Iron Man, when he makes a new element out of just, I guess, shining a laser at a little piece of glass. That was a weird, actually. I didn't like it in Iron Man 2 when he did that. It felt really, like, just kind of tossed in there as a throwaway excuse to get him to the next plot point. But the idea of an AI trying to collapse a planet to make an element is really cool, especially thinking, like, how, if this is a huge planet, how much life is on this planet for, like, maybe they're only going to get a fistful, literally like a hand-sized amount of this new mithril type element when the planet collapses, but it's so rare the AI is willing to do it. Okay, stranded. Let's do something with, weaponized time travel is cool. What if we use that for the stranded? Like, weaponized time travel from an enemy mage has hurled the PCs back in time. 1d12. What can we do? 1d12. Something dramatic. Decades, ages. Or what about, here's kind of a different idea. What if instead of doing some huge wave thrown back in time thing, like, you're back in the prehistoric ages, what if this mage, the extent of time travel magic that they've developed is limited to 1d12 days? That is as far as they've been able to go. Either, maybe they can't even go forward in time, they can only go back, and it's only ever been 12 days at the max. So their plan is, send this group of heroes that are causing all kinds of problems for them or their boss or whatever, send them back in time. The mage is still in the present, so they know what has happened over the past 12 days, and they use that to their advantage to then hunt the PCs who have been thrown back in time and don't necessarily know what is going to happen in the future. It's getting weirdly Inception plotline there. I don't even know if that makes sense, but my idea, the idea there is that this mage is almost like from the future without being from the future, because the players have been thrown back in time. So this mage has all of this information that the players did have at one point, but now they don't. I'm honestly, maybe that's just confusing you all as much as it's confusing me now that I'm trying to explain it. let's just leave it at that cool idea and move on, right? Weaponized time travel from an enemy mage is hurled the PCs back in time 1d12 days. We'll use knowledge of those forthcoming days to hunt the out-of-time heroes. I really like that. It seems kind of disconnected, and it probably would fall apart, but so does every time travel story when you really examine it, right? But fighting an enemy who knows your next step because you've already taken it is, I think that would be so cool. Okay, what was coming up next? Twice Dead Mage also dropped in an idea for supernovas and black holes make the heaviest elements. Oh, yeah. Sebastian says maybe some sort of Dyson sphere or a superstructure to use as an infinite source of energy. Yeah, that could work with the black hole idea. Twice Dead Mage, stranded in the future. That's interesting. I'm trying to think. My first thought is, wow, the future kind of feels almost like a wall you run into. It's like, you get to the future, and then what? Like, you're there. It almost feels like you have to just wait for the past to catch up for the story to continue. Otherwise, if the players are just in the future, what is the camp? Like, what's the mission? And maybe you have a really cool idea. In my head, I'm like, I guess they're either trying to get back home, in which case, is it like an apocalyptic setting and they're trying to scavenge resources to build a machine to get them back? Almost like Pikmin style, where like the parts of this time travel device fell from the heavens with them, and if they get it all back, they can go back. That actually does sound kind of cool. But what other time travel stories can you really tell in the future that don't involve the players like needing to get home, right? Because if the players go to the future and they just want to hang out there, it's just that at that point it's not even a time travel campaign. It's just a different campaign in a different setting. So maybe give me a couple ideas for how you could do time travel adventures in the future. Sebastian said the setting I was referring to was Rogue Trooper from the 2000s. Also, Black Joel are used to super hardened collider. Black holes are used as a super hadron collider to extract hyper uranium stable. I'm trying to make sense of this scientific sentence. I like the idea of it being something that collides things, but I mean, we've already kind of got our black hole idea, so let's keep going to Hive City. What could we do in a Hive City? Sebastian said he just got a setting that's a future post-apocalyptic setting of a classic fantasy setting. Is that, like, when you say classic fantasy setting, are you talking like King Arthur classic? Or are you talking classic Knights and I guess that is King Arthur. Classic 5e fantasy that's post-apocalyptic. Because when I hear post-apocalyptic classic fantasy setting, I'm not exactly sure what to picture. Is it just a bunch of ruins or something? Keep going with it, though. Okay, what were we talking about? Hive City. Right, Samuel, you got something for us for Hive City? Perhaps it's what's a Hodor? Oh, from Game of Thrones. Believe it or not, I've actually never watched a full episode of Game of Thrones. Ugh. But perhaps it's I know who Hodor is. He's the guy who says, like, Hodor, spoiler alert, I think, Hodor is, like, short for hold the door, which is what he's, like, what he does in the future or something like that, right? So let's keep going. It's a Hodor situation where the mage can warg into characters, so maybe the PCs are rumbled with visions and dreams that are actually from a mage time warging? Is that, or are you meaning to say warping, or do they actually say warging in the show? That's a kind of an odd word for magical stuff. But yeah, something like that could be cool, Samuel, where this mage almost has just like random encounters with the PCs over those 12 days. That actually, I really like that idea, Samuel, because that gives the campaign a lot more like structure and a sense of time. It's almost like that campaign is just 12 sessions, and each session is a day that the players have to survive of this mage hurling things back in time or having set up traps for them in the future to catch their past selves that are catching up with the present, right? Setting all these traps, and that's your campaign. 12 sessions, deadly encounters, and it's like episodic. You can kind of just put the players wherever you want them to be for the next trap. It's not like there has to be the overland travel parts of this campaign. You can kind of just cut that. Okay, Hive City. We got to come up with this Hive City idea here. What could a Hive City campaign be? Ooh, what if the players emerged from a dungeon, a mega dungeon? The campaign starts with the players arriving on the surface from way deep down in the deep realms. Like, it's assumed there was a whole campaign before of kind of getting to the surface, assuming there would be nothing. Only they find it's like a sci-fi city, and these medieval characters have to live in a sci-fi hive city. Is that... That's kind of just... maybe that's just gimmicky, though. Like, what are these characters supposed to do? Just besides, like, whoa, fish out of water. What am I... Yeah, that's not really very interesting, I guess, huh? Hey, Samuel Smith, it has been a good while. Good to have you back. Maybe Twice Dead May just saying you could do something to bridge a fantasy campaign to a sci-fi campaign, or maybe they need to bring future technology to save the world. What if... Ooh, I've got an idea. What if instead of Hive City, we did a flying city, and we said the flying... still italicized. Okay, the flying, and then in quotes, Wizard's Tower that flies through the skies is actually a flying sci-fi satellite. Or satellite city. City-state? Yeah, satellite city-state. That sounds cool. So the people down on the surface of this fantasy medieval world or whatever see this thing, this just vaguely castle-shaped looking thing fly by every, I don't know, maybe it's a nightly occurrence, maybe it's once every 100 years this thing passes by type deal, but they see it drift by overhead, they believe it is a wizard, or maybe even the gods live in this thing. It could be whatever you want, and so the campaign, like maybe the first third of this campaign, or the first arc or whatever, is getting up to this place, only to realize when you get up there, this is not a wizard's tower, this is a satellite from... It's almost like you're kind of getting a Planet of the Apes sort of vibes here, where so much time has passed down on the world, or the surface, that the people in the satellite, they're almost like us from our world, and they're like, whoa, what's going on? There's magic and stuff? That could be really cool. Or the players get up there and you do the stranded with the xenomorph in the spaceship mission, and it's magical knights fighting the xenomorph. That would be so cool. Okay, the Flying Wizard's Tower that flies through the skies is actually a flying sci-fi satellite city. Yep, cool. Last one, Invasion. What do we got? Hey, TPK Terrain, welcome in. What if everyone in the Hive City looked exactly like the PCs? Could be cool. Pedro V, wow, I made a time travel campaign just like that, but my players would always have NPCs get the glory for every quest so that the bad guys from the future didn't know about them. That is... I was going to say genius, but also so... Well, I was going to say cruel, like, are they setting those NPCs up to get killed by the villain? But that's what I would think would be happening, right? If the players are doing all of these things to thwart the villain, or survive at least, but they're just putting the blame on these other NPCs. Was the villain sending henchmen to go kill those NPCs? Or was it like, when they heard a name that wasn't the PC's name, they just were like, oh, I don't even care whatever it was they were doing. It's not the person I was worried about. Was it kind of that sort of deal? Samuel Smith says, imagine if their god is just ancient parchment drawings of astronauts, kind of like how the engineers look at Alien 1. Dude, Samuel, that is like so close to what the lore of my setting of Urchin is. It's like this weird mashing of zealous belief in fictional tales that have been told through imagery and words alone, right? So they get like games of telephone, things have just gotten warped over time, and so that could totally exist in my setting. A tribe of goblins worship. Would it be astronauts? Because my setting isn't like 2024 Earth, 3,000 years in the future. It is a totally different fictional universe. But that idea of there was some sort of scientifically advanced kingdom or peoples who lived on this world, that remnants can still be found all the time, and it influences the culture of this now fantasy medieval world, like, that is so my jam. Okay, TPK Terrain also said, and it was a curse by a major villain they faced in the future. So the NPCs are desperate to find their actual PCs to lift the curse. They're just running around a city filled with a bunch of themselves trying to find the real one. Sebastian saying, maybe something like it's composed of tree games. First game starts as OSR classic fantasy setting, then mana dies and develop normal technology, then a nuclear war destroy everything, and wait, what? Oh, it's composed of 3 games. I see. Okay, I was like, tree games? What are you talking about? Yeah, that is just typing a little too fast there. Okay, it's composed of 3 games. The first game is in an OSR Classic setting. Then the next one is in some sort of middle, magic is dying, and then it's post-apocalyptic. That could be really cool. I like that idea. Invasion, though. Let's get with this idea, right? What could a game about an invasion be? A good plot hook for invasion. Sci-fi campaign starter. Gosh, it's so hard to not just run with an idea of a bunch of aliens show up in their ships to invade, right? But you also don't want to just do secret invasion. Something like, not the Marvel TV show that was really bad, the Marvel comic run that was really good. You don't want to just do that, where it's a bunch of doppelgangers have infiltrated every level of governments and the players have to defeat them. So what other types of invasions are there? Invasions of... It could be like a... Maybe like a... What if the Fae in the setting that we're kind of making up on the spot right now was alien? Fae, in the context of this game, isn't old nature. It's almost like... What was that movie with Natalie Portman where she went into like that big weird bubble thing and it mutated everything inside? Extinction? Is that what it was called? Something almost like that, where this thing, this alien, or this fae, that's what you call the aliens, the fae fell down into this forest, and now the alien biology of this thing is like mutating or spreading these weird alien diseases that are blighting the forest. So it's not an invasion of a human settlement or like a human world or anything. It's just an invasion of this one natural place. I like it. Let's do it. Alien fae have fallen from the stars and blighted a forest with their Xenos disease. Is that the right word? Their Xenos diseases. Maybe we'll just say, we'll just pull a page right out of the 40K book with their Xenos filth. Ugh. Xenos. Is anybody playing Space Marine 2, by the way? I don't have a new enough console, or honestly, I just probably don't have the time or interest in playing that type of video game. I really like Darkest Dungeon. That's been a game I've just been vibing with. But I'm not much of a FPS video game player, but I love watching all the clips of Space Marine 2 because I love 40K, so it's very cool to see. Anyways, okay. That is enough, I think, for the opening prompt. Thank you, everybody, for your ideas and your contributions. Let's move on real briefly here with church announcements, and then we're going to jump into the setting primer stuff. So I got 4 little things here I wanted to talk about. First thing is RPG Confessionals. I mentioned this last week, that it was something I was going to be putting onto the Patreon. If you didn't hear it last week, I'll say it again. The RPG Confessionals are one-on-one video or Google Hangout calls that I have with my patrons. And I had my very first one. It was awesome. I had it with Sir Cardis, and he requested that we spend the 30 minutes talking about... He had kind of 2 different groups that had some players leaving, and he was needing to bring some of those players over, but a character had just died, so they were... he was wanting to do some mourning for that group, but also needed to bring in this new group and push all of them in the same direction. It's kind of that was a big ask for him, right, of one GM. And we ended up coming to a really, really cool solution for him, where the session is going to start at the temple, where the new characters, their contact is going to be taking them there, because they know, I'm going to get you in touch with somebody who's going to help you on your journey. There's this group of people you should meet, and that group of people is the other players who are at a funeral service at this temple for the character who died. So the benefit of that whole call was we basically kind of helped cut a bunch of this not really needed fluff stuff at the beginning of I need to have the new players go meet this guy and talk with him and learn about this other group, so then he can take them there. And on this call we were just kind of why though? Couldn't you just skip that whole part and just bring them straight to the temple and get into the cool stuff? It was really, really awesome. It was super fun. And so one thing about the RPG Confessionals that I'm thinking about doing is I've got it right now at the Apostle tier, which is the second highest. You get 1 30-minute call a month. I'm thinking about putting that down to the $10 tier and having at the $10 tier, that's like the main perk. You get 1 30-minute call a month, and then at the Apostle you get 2, and then the Martyr tier gets like, that's all kind of redacted secret stuff that only the Martyrs get to know, basically. But I was thinking about, I'm like, there's not enough, like, I want to spend more time talking with people in these one-on-one calls, talking about their D&D worlds. Like, that's just what's really fun for me right now. And putting it at this, like, really high tier of $25 a month just felt like, well, like, there's a lot of people who just can't afford that, and I'm not going to get to talk to them. And if I do 2 30-minute calls in a day, you know, for 2 $10 patrons, that's $20. Like, that feels like a fair use of my, or like fair for my time and something I really like to do. And so I'm thinking about bumping that down in a way, so that it opens it up for more people at the $10 a month tier. So if that is something that you would be interested in, if you're listening to this, you're like, I would love to just, for $10 to hop on a call with somebody and just talk about my D&D world and brainstorm whatever I want for it, or anything in the RPG sort of hobby. If that sounds interesting to you, like, just put a comment or something, or like this video or something to let me know that I'm kind of going in the right direction. Other updates quickly here, or announcements. The creative mission. So that was something we talked about last week as well, that now as kind of our weekly ritual or a habit for these sermons is the patrons are going to vote on what they want me to hyperfixate on the week, or hyperfixate on for the week. And then at these sermons, I will kind of present either what I have made or what I have found or discovered or learned or all that kind of stuff, or it might just be a progress report, basically. But the last one that won in the poll was for a Doomed Realms campaign setting primer. So today, to kind of kick off the beginning of this mission, we're going to talk about primers and figure out what do you want in those, what do you feel like is superfluous in them, what isn't very useful. So we're gonna dive into that to help me create something that I can then give to the congregation, give to all of you who like the lore that I've been building for my setting, and you can kind of tell some stories in it. So that's just exciting that we've kind of kicked off that new ritual within the church. Ooh, monster songs. Ooh, I think I actually forgot to pull this up. Shoot. Well, maybe I'll show this off next time, just because. No, I can pull it up right here. Hold on. I have been working on Monster Psalms really hard for the past week, just trying to get like as much of the edits done as I possibly can so that we can get this thing printed and sent off to all the backers. And here is where we are at with the book. I want to show you the formatting because it looks really, really cool. Hold on, it's slow to open because I've got a streaming program going. Hopefully everything doesn't collapse. Oh, look how cool it's looking. This is for the Pillaging Orc. So I added this pink and yellow kind of backdrop for all the different monster art. All of the tables, they are all done. They still needs, like, as I'm kind of getting this thing sent off to printers and getting an idea of pricing and stuff, I still need to do some proofreading, but basically everything is in there now. And would like to, I'm going to just say don't allow to whatever that's asking right now. But oh, look at the Naga. Look how cool that one looks. So I just am so stoked with how Monster Psalms is coming along. So I've been sharing a lot of that over on Patreon, as well as, like, if you're a backer of the project, like this file as a PDF is downloadable in the most recent update on Kickstarter. So you can go download and like start using all of this already. It's ready for you. So what's left for me, I still need to like get the table of contents and a couple things like that figured out. But yeah, really, really happy with it. It's looking awesome. Look how cool the angel is. Isn't that awesome? What did I put the quote as? Your acts of repentance have been witnessed and deemed inadequate. I like the idea of angels being like menacing and scary, not like, oh, hello, I'm here to bless you and help you. Like they're here to punish. They're oh yeah, they're kind of like the Punisher. That's cool. All right. Quit out of InDesign. I don't think I had anything that needed to be saved. All right. Last update was for my player character, because last week we brainstormed ideas for the character I was going to do in my buddy's new 5.5 campaign that we started. And I have to apologize. I didn't get to play any of the ideas that we brainstormed together, because when we got there, ultimately everybody kind of decided we should do... I guess this was kind of my idea, so I guess I should say that. I am to blame for not playing one of our ideas, but some of the other players were kind of like, I'm not sure what I want to do yet, and we were trying to get an idea of the tone of the setting. So I pitched this idea of like, well, hey, what if we just brainstorm 3 random tables, like 3 D6 tables, to help us each generate a character for this setting? Because if you remember, the campaign was starting with us all in prison and we were basically going to be a Suicide Squad type deal. So some of the tables were like, what was our role within the squad? Were you the demolitionist? Were you the face? Were you the thief? Like all that kind of stuff. Then there was a table for your quirk or something like that, and then there was the table for what got you in jail. What was your flaw? So we ended up rolling on those kind of randomly to just generate our characters, and mine ended up being it was like a reckless arms dealer. I can't remember the keywords off the top of my head, but I do remember that he ended up being this tiefling priest who he was a chaplain or a cleric to the god of war and the god of peace. But what got him in jail is it was discovered he was selling arcane weapons and secrets to not only his own like kingdom's militaries, but the enemy too. He was an arms dealer. He was selling all these things to evil people, despite being a cleric of peace. And to make it even better, as like a tiefling, he has these tall, really big, tall horns. He's very like gaunt and kind of looms over you, very Nosferatu style. And I called him Chaplain. I love that about tieflings in the 5e book, that they have like kind of, what do they call them? They're virtue names, the one word names that kind of describe or capture the spirit of the character. I love that. I love it so much. So Chaplain worked, I thought, for my tiefling, because he was like, chaplain is the priest or the religious figure in the military. So him being called chaplain while serving in a church, just the layers of kind of irony there, I thought were really fun. So those are all the announcements I had for you. That's kind of it for an update for me today. Anything in the chat, questions with that I want to address real quick before we move on? Colin Lee said, looks cool, love the art. He's talking about Monster Psalms, thank you. As well as 55 on Tuesdays, it's so cool, much appreciated. What else we got? Sebastian said, Church of Doom, I was complaining a lot about the 5.5 art while with a friend and showed your book. He complimented you on the drawings and artistic direction. Well, hey, that is no credit to me. That is Cameron Royce. He is the guy who did, I already closed it. It's too slow to open it back up again. But Cameron Royce, look him up. He's on Instagram. He's got his own website. He's my buddy here in Salt Lake. He did the illustrations for the book. Freaking awesome. Really, really, really cool. All right. Oh, TPK Terrain adding, or Grandfather Doom. TPK Terrain, you got to change your name to Grandfather Doom, because I always have to say that it's Grandfather Doom. It'd be fun to just have the family in here. But TPK Terrain said, making his red prison uniform gaudy by adding remnants of the other red uniforms was ridiculously cool. Oh, I forgot, yeah. So as part of the prison we were kept in, what was it called? Raven's Perch? I can't remember. It had a cool... There were like a bunch of rocks that dropped these feathers down into this pit, because the guards would ride these baby rocks down there. Anyways, we all had these bright red uniforms on, and I had described that my character as kind of the priestly cleric guy who might help some of the sick prisoners and things. When they would die, he'd been taking parts of their sleeves and stuff and making it into the, whatever those, what do they call that? Not garments. What is the... not armaments. That's a different thing too. I can't even remember. But you know how priests have like that almost scarf-looking thing they wear? Chaplain had made that out of the bloody robes of other prisoners who had died here, which was, like Grandfather Doom said, very cool. All right, setting primers. Let's talk about what we're actually here to talk about today, right? So a setting primer, a campaign primer, because we had a couple people at the beginning of this say like, I've never used that. What is that? I've never gotten that. It's kind of implied in the name, right? It's a document that primes the players or anybody who's coming to your table to be in your world. It primes them for what to expect. Or another way to think about it would be like, it is the thing that kind of helps your player get comfortable playing in your world. What are the core assumptions of the people that live in this world? Not just information for like players and stuff like meta-wise, but like, I guess it is still meta information because you're acting upon it in-game after learning it as a player. But it's like all in-game, in-setting, useful lore and information that the players and the players' characters would know kind of going into the campaign. And I think one of its biggest strengths to having it is it just avoids a lot of the like trudge work of those first early sessions where you're needing to like get the players caught up with things and get them, who are the gods? Do they have to go through a bunch of role-play encounters to learn of them, or can you just give them this cool document that tells them what the main ones are, because those characters in this world would know that, right? So that's kind of what it is. Now, what we're going to do today, and this might be a brief talk, this might be a long talk, I have no idea. It's kind of up to y'all, because I have not really ever made like a super concrete one. If you remember the one I showed you all last week in our previous sermon that Quinn sent out to us, I've never really made one that looks quite that like good and all-encompassing. Like his addressed things like, here's what the world's like politics are kind of like, and here's how much roleplay and combat and exploration is going to be in the campaign. I haven't quite done all of that. So today I'm not going to make one on stream. We're not going to make a big perfect setting primer, because I just want to know, what do you guys want in a setting primer? What do you feel like is missing from them? What do you wish you'd put in them? Because then next Sunday, I will come show you the one that I have made. And I will try and add as many of these things into it as I possibly can for the Doomed Realms. So, let's see. What are people... Oh, vestments, TPK Terrain said. That's the word for what he wore. Thank you. Yeah, so let's start talking in chat. What are things that would be useful in a campaign primer? A few that I listed on a poll, actually, that's on my community feed, was like roleplay advice or roleplay guidance. How do the people in this world talk? If it is a world where people are... Here's a good example. If you want to play a very grounded, medieval-feeling world, then you might want to have everybody be pretty uneducated in the way that they talk. And so, if that's important to you, and if that's how all of the NPCs are going to kind of talk, and it's important that the players know that they shouldn't necessarily trust everybody, not because they're dishonest, but just because they're idiots. Like, they're just these, like, peasant folk out in the farmlands who have never learned, they don't even know how to read, right? Like, if that's important to you, then you need to convey that to your players ahead of time, so that you don't get upset or disappointed as the GM when all the players show up and they've got their ridiculous accents that they want to do, or one of them's, I'm the smartest, I graduated top of my class in my wizarding university. If you're like, that doesn't, like, sure, but you're going to be the only person for 100 miles in any, or 100 miles in any direction who knows how to do that stuff. As long as you're okay with that, and okay knowing that people might come after you because they want the stuff that you've got, like, then that's cool. But you're never going to get on that level with your players if you don't maybe have this primer and have these talks. And I'm realizing that a setting primer it kind of does a lot of what a session 0 does, but in my opinion, I prefer, like, I think that if I had to choose between a session 0 and a campaign primer, I would do the primer. It's faster, it's easier, the players are actually going to read it, you don't waste valuable game time kind of talking through a bunch of things that honestly most normal people are not going to have a problem with, right? Like, don't be an asshole, don't bring up really weird, fringe, freaky topics in our game. Like, unless you're meeting with total strangers, you can kind of, I think, put that to the side, honestly, and focus on the important things for a group of friends, like, what is this world we're about to be playing in? But yeah, other ideas. So roleplay guidance was one that I thought could be cool. I'm staring into a projector, and now I have the little, like, black dot, and I can't read the chat. Alan Reed said, oh, what's up, Alan? Good to see you, man. Setting primer, something useful could be gods, cities, time period, or equivalent of, like, tech level, culture, values, common races and creatures in the region, rumors and events, any common, or... Oh, any, like, common rumors and things. Okay, wow, dude, so many good ones there. Let's start adding some that I really, really like. Gods and cities. I'm going to just put, like, summary of major gods. We'll do summary of major landmarks. One I thought was important, too. Like, sure, you might have people in town who have never left town in their entire life, right? They've never been more than a day's travel from town, but they still have seen the mountain peak over the forest. They still have seen the flying mage tower, right, that flies by every night. That's actually a satellite. They still have seen the smoke that plumes up over the forest to the east, where some people think a dragon is raising an army and that's what all the smoke is, but other people say it's actually just a volcanic field. That's what the wizard says, right? The people in town think there must be a dragon raising an army. Look at how much smoke is coming up over there. And the wizard's like, no, you don't understand. It's not an army. It's science, and it's just a volcano, and that would be really, really fun there too. So, and that's, like, what I think is interesting about landmarks too, is if you can put yourself in the shoes of the characters of this world, not even the players, just of your NPCs, You are standing in town, looking around. What does the world look like to you? Like, instead of feeling like you need to map the world perfectly from a god's perspective, Runehammer talks about this in some of his podcasts, but this is, I don't know, maybe kind of helping me visualize how to put it into practice. Like, when you are building your world, it's very easy to be the god and just think on this crazy macro scale. How do you think on a micro scale when you're doing a campaign primer and you're wanting to get your players really immersed? Close your eyes and literally try and picture it in your head. I'm like closing my eyes and picturing this sort of like Pine Ridge forest, very classic fantasy with some smoke pluming, and you can like smell the like not charcoal, the like sulfur in the air. It's maybe really dry and like raspy with your voice because you're having to breathe all this volcanic air. So maybe a lot of the characters in town, when the players are interacting with them, they have really bad coughs. They have a raspy breath. They're always asking for water. Like, I mean, we're getting really hyper focused in on one little town, but maybe your whole story takes place in this town. You would want your players to know all of this stuff. All right, keep going. What else would be good? Oh, I liked Alan Reed's idea for tech level for a world. What is reasonable to expect to find in this setting? I think this one actually is pretty underrated. Like, I think that one is incredibly important because the way that D&D, like 5e is pitched, or 5.5 or whatever is pitched, right? It's for everybody. We've all heard this. We've all heard Matt Colville and people do these videos where D&D is for everybody. It has to be very broad. So the tech level feels very broad, but not in like an intentional way that feels like it makes sense in the world. Just kind of in like just illustrate whatever you need to illustrate to make it look kind of cool. Like, I don't know what is and is not feasible in the Forgotten Realms. I know that Eberron as a setting has arcane-powered trains, but there's nothing that would lead me to believe that couldn't also exist in the Forgotten Realms, because I don't know what the cap is on tech and how rare that stuff is. So having that kind of spelled out for me somewhere would be very, very useful. Also, that's very good for characters that like to play artificers, tinkerers, inventors, any sort of sciencey based character. That includes wizards, who are more like invested in the theory of science than like more so than the actual like creating part or tinkering part. But you need to know how smart to sound, basically, if you want to be able to role play that type of character. And you need to know, what can I make and what can I not make? So great idea, Alan. Any others from that list I wanted to put in there? Common races and creatures, rumors. I like the rumors. That one was really good. Let's do recent rumors, or growing rumors. Growing rumors. I like that one. Growing rumors. Okay, maybe we'll get at least a couple more on this list here. Hey, what's up, noble knight? Hello, my lord. What's going on, man? Hope you're doing well. Sebastian says he usually starts from a historical basis or cultural reference. Imagine you are in the 100-Year War in the world of Conan. You are an Arrakis. To give it a basis, then I explain the key differences. Oh, wow. So you go pretty meta with it. You pull real-world examples, real-world, including like from our real-world pop culture. You use that to anchor your players, and then you kind of reskin on top of it. Interesting. When I hear that sounds like the right way to do it. It sounds quicker, faster. It gets your players on board with what you're thinking right away. But there's like this stubborn part of me right now that's thinking like, but I want to be so good at being a GM that I don't have to do that. And I can just describe my own stuff. And then if I struggle, then I can pull a real world scenario and be like, okay, it's just kind of like this thing, right? That sounds like something maybe I need to talk about in therapy. What else we got? Grandfather Doom, love it, change the name, hell yeah. What secret purpose does this town serve? A particular god or demon or a devil? Is it where the apocalypse will start? Ooh, yeah, okay, so you kind of are putting out these dramatic questions about the town. The town was just a hyper-fixation of mine in this cool little example I was coming up with, but the dramatic question part of your comment there, Grandfather Doom, I think is very valuable. And isn't that from Chelsea Dion? Dramatic question? It's like, what is the... Oh, I haven't even been typing descriptions of what these are. That's fine. I don't really care. A dramatic question, in the context of what I remember Kelsey Dion saying, is like, will the players make it through the spider den or something like that, or will the kingdom go to war? Those are dramatic questions. Having some of those for your primer, I think, could be very cool too. They're similar to rumors, but they serve a slightly different purpose, I think. Growing rumors is just kind of like these, they can be like fun little random things you sprinkle in there to just test the waters. What are the players interested in? It's like fishing, right? You throw some bait out, what do they take? Whereas dramatic question is like central to the theme of your campaign. What story are you trying to tell with this campaign? Maybe, and I guess kind of I gave an example that works with this of like, will the kingdom go to war? That is a dramatic question on a kingdom level or a world level. That's not really a growing rumor. A better example of a growing rumor might be the young men and women are being drafted. There's a rumor that people are getting drafted into the war. That's small scale. Dramatic question though is, will the kingdom go to war? And that I mean, now that I'm hearing that there's a rumor that people are being drafted, I like that they conflict almost, because in the world as a player, I'd be like, well, are we already at war? If people are being drafted, then is there a secret war that we're fighting? We need to go investigate this. Or the players might say, oh shit, the war's already started. We need to go enlist and let's get in on this thing and let's go fight for our kingdom, right? So cool. Very, very fun dramatic questions going on here. Okay. Let's see. Alan Reed said, for primer, how about 2 local figures that everyone knows? Ooh, reputable figures. I like that. Or notable figures. Reputable implies almost like they have a good reputation. Widely known. Dominant. Dominant. I like that. Dominant figures or NPCs could be cool. Who is... that list would include the king, the queen, probably like maybe the hand of the king, right? The diplomat who is out sending messages and things like that, going to town to speak with the mayor or the heroes. Or if you're going way more fantastical, maybe one of the dominant NPCs of this story is the dragon who's raising the army on the other side of the forest. Or the wizard. Those are all examples of the dominant characters. And then you would want to have maybe just a little write-up of, 1-sentence description that when the players are in town and they hear the name of this wizard nearby, they can ask the farmer that they see in the market, hey, who's this? Who's the wizard? And you can just go to this 1-sentence description that doesn't matter who the characters are talking to, everybody knows this about the wizard, and I can just throw that their way. That's what I think the most useful kind of prep is, right? It's playable, it's ready. It doesn't need much more work in the moment. Or maybe that's a bad way to describe it. It definitely needs more work, because you're going to be adding on to it and making all kinds... Whoa! I got my notifications up there. You're going to have, like... What was I talking about? I all of a sudden was like, oh god, I have my notifications up. Dominant NPCs would be, like a dragon, and the mage and the things like that who are involved in the story. And you can have a quick description. That's where I was going with that. Everybody knows about these people. Tech level... Oh, okay, so that's one more we need to fill in there. Does anybody have other requests? Because keep in mind, this is like also requests. If you're a player, more so than you are a GM, or maybe you're just a GM that really, really is involved in the world building part of this, and you see a lot of other people's primers, you're like, they're always missing this. Or, I'd also be very curious to know, are there things that get added that you're like, I don't ever need to know this? Like, or, sure, it's cool to know this, but it's not ever usable. Like, I can't actually do much with this information. Let me know about that. Okay, what else we got? Colin Lee said a form of press and hearing news. Maybe hearing news about the new world that explorers discovered. As part of the primer? Interesting. Maybe like... So Colin... I guess I wouldn't say that like a campaign primer needs not every primer needs a entry into how the characters are going to learn information in the world, right? But you are having me think that it could be useful to have a I was going to say expectations section, but it's not a session 0 expectations of the players. It's almost like, what are the expectations of characters in this world? Yeah, ooh, I like that. PC expectations, and I'm actually going to put a clarification here though, that it's not from the GM, it's from the world, from the world, from the NPCs, from the governments. What do the people of this world, and this is pretty generic, broad D&D, you're just a group of adventurers going and doing quests, right? If you start to get off of that, this doesn't really apply, but what does the average person in this world expect of a hero or an adventurer in your setting? Is it a fair expectation for people to just always, like, should the players expect people to be coming up and offering them work all the time? Like, because if that's the expectation I have as a player, then I'm going to be a lot more kind of sit back and wait for the story to come to me, and then I'll engage with it. But if I'm told that people are actually very, very distrustful of heroes, and you have to work hard to find the right contacts to get the good-paying jobs, well, damn, that's an expectation of a PC in this world that is going to ask more of me as a player to roleplay. Now I know the GM is going to be looking at me and asking me, who do I want to go talk to, and what questions and what am I going to ask them, and what am I going to say to help me get to the job, right? That might sound like a totally horrible type of game to you, but that's why it would be useful to have it on your primer, because then you would know, I don't want to play in that. Alan Reed said, oh yeah, I was in a 3-shot before and was the only good aligned character. It was not fun, so character expectations would be nice. Yeah. But again, it's this is not a session 0 thing, right? It's not be nice and be, these are our no topics, right? It's like, it's not that. It is, people in this world look to heroes and they expect them. They hold them to a standard of chivalry that maybe, like, we are not conditioned to expect in a 5e looking campaign where you're kind of just this ragtag band of crazy people just running around doing whatever you want, right? That's very, very different. Very, very different than what I think, especially a lot of us here in this church, want to run at our table. Okay, Roleplay Guidance, Summary of Major Gods. I actually feel like I'm going to change Roleplay Guidance to REC, so Roleplay, Exploration, and Combat. Not just like that. So Roleplay, Exploration, and Combat, I think it'd be useful to have on the primer how Quinn did it in the primer he sent out last week. That showed kind of how much emphasis is there going to be on each level of this. How much exploration are we going to do? How much combat are we going to do? How much roleplay are we going to do? But I think then it would also be interesting or useful to tack on a little description of, like, here is how I as a GM expect players to handle the exploration side of the game. You know, if you're someone who plays combat in turn order and exploration in turn order, but roleplay is freeform, then that's just, you should definitely tell your players that, and that, I think that would be great on a primer. Okay, and I just changed that because it didn't need to just be roleplay. That can go to all of those. So roleplay, exploration, combat guidance, summary of major gods, summary of major landmarks, the tech level, growing rumors, dramatic questions, dominant NPCs, PC expectations. What else we got? What else do we have? Noble Knight says, and then, if they feel like they're interested, they can discuss the topics they don't want to appear in the game. Alan Reed, isn't that the definition of an adventurer, though? Maybe, Alan. Maybe. In, like, a typical fantasy setting, is an adventurer just a chivalrous person who kind of goes out to find work? Yes, but it might not be that in your world. What if adventurers in your world are sort of like superstars? And the players are going to be entering this campaign as level 0 adventurers, and the campaign is almost going to be like grinding your way to get to a level of fame that only the level 10 heroes have. I think Goblin Hunter does that, like, pretty meta-wise, where the Adventurers Guild is like, oh, it's very, very meta in the setting and in the world. Maybe you want something like that, and so you want to convey to your players that it's okay to lean into the sort of star power of being an adventurer. That is not at all the type of setting or world that I would want to play in. I would want it to be much more of like adventurers or risky business. They're kind of seen almost as like an adventurer and a mercenary and a bounty hunter are sort of interchangeable almost in my world. Like they have the same degrees of respect and fear from the public. That's what I like. Okay. What else? Anything else for a campaign primer? I'm trying to think, just like really jumping out. Ooh, what about some? I think a good example or something that I would like as a player would be PC examples. Like give a little list of 4 or 6 character concepts that would fit really well into the world or also the story that you might be trying to tell. If it's a campaign about vampire hunting, then give your character or give your players a list of 6 character ideas that you came up with for in setting vampire hunters. And you could do something cool where maybe this isn't just a list of like pre-built characters. It's like these are 6 of the most legendary vampire hunters that have come before you in your guild of vampire hunters, and you've all heard of these people. Or maybe it's the players, like, if you want to even push that a step further, it could be their family line. And so that the specifics of the idea don't matter. The point being, give them insight into what your vision of the story is for their characters too. Because as much as I think we maybe want to deny it as GMs, and as much conversation as there is online about player agency and letting them have total control and everything, we like to have as much control as we can, I think, of our stories. And that includes the aesthetics. That includes, like, how the characters kind of can dress and look, per se. Like, if you're in a gothic noir or a high gothic setting, you don't want the Fey wanderer showing up in their, dragonfly wing crystal ball gown. That's the word. That's going to feel super out of place and be very disruptive. Hey, what's up, Infinite? How are you? Unshelled Pity said, I wanted to begin a campaign with the opening scene from Glengarry Glen Ross. No idea what that is. The Greater Guild, the party set... Wait, what? I'm so sorry. Unshelled Pity. I'm trying to follow that, but I'm struggling. You did give me an idea, though, to have on our primer... We should do campaign start. Or maybe like opening scene is a good way to describe it. Opening scene. So I guess this is similar to the strong start, right? But put it on your primer. Tell the players how the campaign is going to start. I think that could be cool. I've never done that. I don't think. But I've pretty sure, like Quinn told us going into this campaign, you are starting down in the bottom of a prison pit, and you've heard rumors that there's going to be a prison riot. We are primed for what's to come. And that, it's in the name. It's a campaign primer. You want to prime everybody so when they show up for your session 1, it goes exactly how you want it to go, right? It's strong, it's fun, it doesn't drag its feet to get into things. That's like the worst thing that could happen to you at your session 1 is all your players that showed up are bored within 10 minutes because you didn't do proper groundwork, right? You spent too much time prepping exactly what was going to happen in the session, when really you should have spent more time prepping, getting your players ready instead of just you. And I think that's actually a pretty good spot to end the setting primer talk and get into our closing prompt here, because that is already so many things, I think, for us to think about and for you to think about with your own campaign prep. I mean, we could do this all day long, and we could just keep getting more and more specific with it, but we're coming up on an hour, and I want to get into our closing prompt. So, what are we going to finish today's sermon with for a little brainstorm, right? What could be something cool? Does anybody have a request? I'll give you a minute to drop a request if you got one. But otherwise, I've definitely got a few things in my head we could start brainstorming now. Coffee is for heroes. I wouldn't even call you bums adventurers. Nice one. Unshelled Pity, that's good. Noble Knight said any class or race restrictions should be included. Yeah, that's true. That could probably be... that might be part of, PC expectations, maybe? Or no, that's from the world and the government. Yeah. I guess I'm feeling like that falls under, tech level and character examples and a few other things of, what is real? Is it a human-centric world? And if that's the case, then all of the example characters will be human. But if in your world you have this thriving, lush, diverse ecosystem of different fantasy species, then that can be reflected in the list of example characters, right? You've got your centaur, you've got your plasmoid, you've got your whatever all the ridiculous ones are. Alan Reed said, ooh, one more for players. Common and uncommon classes. Are paladins rare? Are wizards rare? Fair. Yeah, I think that also, though, kind of goes under expectations of the PC from the viewpoint of the world. How rare is a knight? How rare is a wizard? How rare is a rogue? Ooh, a guild or some sort of influential organization. That's our request from Noble Knight. Okay, so Noble Knight says he needs 1d(x). A guild or some sort of influential organization. Infinite also said organizations, nations, guilds is missing, but I may have been mistaken. Oh, maybe that's... both might have been saying you wanted that on our list of setting primer stuff. You're not talking about the prompt, but I'm excited to actually do some guild ideas. That's just where my head's at with world building. So let's do 1d(x). Influential organizations. Noble Knight, what could be something more specific? What about up and coming? What about like new... I'll just do up and coming organizations. So these are things in the world that are finding their footing. They're finding more power. They're challenging the structure or the established quo of power and things like that in the world. What can we do? What are some interesting guilds? What would be interesting? I almost want to avoid all the most common topics of like, you've got your thieves, you've got the drug mules, you've got your arms dealers. What's some other kind of cooler things that would be up and coming in a fantasy world? Something about like, ooh, what about like a levitators guild? They're like developing the realms. Oh, I've got all my question marks still in there. Developing the realms first industrial levitation devices, and because of that they're sponsoring explorers. What I'm envisioning is this guild has found maybe whatever the stone is that how it allows airships to fly. What if it's rune stone or something like that? They have found their own deposit of it and are building like the first jump packs basically. And they're sponsoring these groups of heroes who are going out and they're able to like jump and not permanently levitate, but kind of climb mountains, climb ruins. And so now this guild, instead of having all of their adventurers or their members going outwards or down into the dungeons like most other treasure hunting guilds are needing to do, these people get to send people, or they get to send their members up. And it's a hell of a lot easier for them than it is for other people. So that sounds interesting and cool to me. We could do something for an alchemist guild, or maybe a guild of chemists who produce gunpowder that is somehow better than all others on the market. We could do an airship manufacturers guild. That was from Grandfather Doom. You could do a gamblers guild. Owns casinos, card tables, and taverns, etc. Has like Monopoly of sorts. A mob owning every single one. Something with gamblers could be interesting. Or like someone like a guild that gets you... What about a guild that gets you out of debt? Like they're almost like they're not bounty... I'm trying to think of how to describe this. I'm imagining like if you were the rogue who was in a ton of debt to the mob boss of the city, there's this guild that you go to that they have illegal jobs. That's just a black market. That's stupid. I was just thinking, like, you go to them when you're like, I need to make 2,000 gold before the next sunrise. How do I do that? This is who you go to. Maybe that could work. What would be a cool, like, description for that type of guild? Desperate. You're at the end of your rope. You're trying to see if these words kind of spark anything. I'm just gonna do the word desperate for now. So the offers the most dangerous but profitable jobs to the most desperate souls. Don't love that idea, but it's the start of something. Loan sharks, let's go. Yeah, exactly. Noble Knights is maybe a goldsmith or a silversmith guild. They're trying to make something resembling a modern bank. Banking guild, or what could we do to make a banking guild interesting? Excuse me, I had to sneeze and I went to press the mute button and I missed it. A highwaymaster's guild. Oh, that's cool. Roads are the primary form of transportation and is their thing. They shut down magic gates, teleport spells, airs. I love that. A road guild. So they are the ones who they've hired patrols. They hunt bandits and monsters. They have the checkpoints. They have the, like Grandfather Doom said, they've got the magical gates for fast travel. That is really fun. Let's do one more at least, right? Sebastian said the Magnus Opus on guilds for me is Ink Morpork and like Renaissance Florence with more magic and more logical events and more rational characters. I don't know what Ink Morpork is, but it sounds cool. Okay, one more cool guild. Up and coming organizations. What's something that's not human? Or like, a lot of these feel human-centric or based out of a city. I guess the road one is out on the road, but still, they're probably based out of cities. What could be a guild that is more wild or feels less civilized? Ideas? Something with a new currency could be cool. But what do we need guilds for? Something at sea, maybe? Like a deep sea diving guild? I love the idea of dwarves and deep sea diving. Those two always in my head just smashed together. Deep sea mining dwarves is so cool. But I've used that idea before, so I don't want to do it here. Would elves have guilds? Probably not. Or at least not in the sense that humans would. Gnomes, maybe. I'd love a dwarven guild. What could be a cool dwarf guild? Maybe they're ones who... Ooh, what about grudge keepers? It's a dwarven guild that not only like archives and settles grudges between clans. Oh, that would be cool. So you've got, because what's useful about this guild? Well, you've got the two clans that have their rivalry or whatever, but their archive, their telling of the story is going to be very different than the truth. And so this dwarven guild, which exists in a dwarf-centric society, right? We're not talking about human-centric society, which we kind of default to. In this dwarf society, it would make sense that you would have someone whose job as a scholar is to go out and find the truth of it. What actually happened between the Iron Braid dwarves and the elves of Mirkwood, right? What was the real cause of why they didn't come together at the Battle of the Seven Armies, or whatever your stolen version of the thing is? So that is they sound like lawyers. Yeah, cool. I'm glad you guys like the idea. I think it's cool, and it would be a fun player character idea for a very role play heavy dwarf character. All right, everybody. Basically almost on the hour exactly. Fun sermon today. Thank you for all of your input on things you would like out of a setting primer. I will get working on that over the next week. And then next Sunday, I will be back here for another sermon to share with you all what I create for you all. And just so you know, what my plan is for this sort of like every week I'm serving a creative mission, and these sermons are my chance to report on those, right? Is everybody who follows my Patreon, everybody who follows the Church of Doom on Patreon, which is free to do, you can start as a member for free, you will get whatever it is that I create from these missions. The patrons are going to get, they have access to like a hobby blog that is going to follow like daily kind of progress updates as often as I can. They're going to get all sorts of other like exclusive PDFs and little side projects and things that I'm working on. But if you just enjoy watching these videos and you would like to get some of these resources that we're creating for this congregation of RPG enthusiasts, then all you need to do is go follow me on Patreon, and you'll start kind of building up an armory of tools and resources for you. Last thing before I bounce up, so don't forget, Church of Doom is sponsored by Crusade Apparel. Awesome, like hardcore fantasy-looking shirts that aren't impossible to read like a hardcore metal album would be. You can check them out. I've got that link down in the description. You can use code DOOM, all caps, gets you 10% off, I believe. As well as code DOOM on Only Crits, who is another sponsor of the show and the sermon and the church. They make really awesome sharp edge dice that you can go check out and get 10% off that as well. And all that'll send a kickback to me, because I would love if you would all pay your tithing by leaving a like, leaving a comment, and saying these things in their unholy names with me. Amen. All right, folks, that's it. I realized I have to go end the stream over there at my other computer, so I'm gonna walk over here and say goodbye, everybody. Have a good rest of your day. See ya.